call me Mr. Tibb.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
It's the picture that got small.
The Force will be with you, always.
There's movie lines, then there's quotable dialogue. Rising above typical pop culture, the lore in our lexicon, up next on PopCon.
Get away from her, you bitch.
Welcome back to PopCon. If you're new here, this is not your typical YouTube channel with the same old videos everyone else is doing. This is a show about anything, but nothing in particular. A salute to all pop culture, but mostly the 80s. If you haven't, I ask that you please subscribe to my channel and stick around to the end. If you haven't subscribed by then, you will. Today's pop culture isn't bound by any era, but we begin somewhere near the start of our modern visual history. Without even knowing it, most of us commonly turn a phrase whose origins are far more interesting than their meaning. Surprisingly, some of the most common phrases used today come from the often overlooked and poo-pooed black and white films from the golden age of Hollywood. The silver screen created many memorable moments that have lived on through the decades. And when it comes to some popular phrases, like so many other things in everyday life, we tend to forget where it all began. I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. From humble beginnings in an era often ignored, but bridge the generation gap, this is the pop history of our shared vocabulary. In the late 1990s, in casual conversation, someone at work simply told me that a day does not go by without a reference to The Wizard of Oz. It sounded funny at the time, and I smirked in pseudo-agreement at the obvious exaggeration. And then suddenly, I began to hear it. And soon, I could not hear it. But there they were. From random strangers, people at the grocery store, to coworkers to friends. Phrases I knew very well that were being delivered at the most opportune times. Not random movie quoting between friends, but more like references derived from well-known lines that were perfectly timed.
It's a twister! It's a twister!
You cursed rat! Look what you've done! I'm melting! Melting!
And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Oh! Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
It seems like no other movie has had as many lines that work in so many everyday situations and are used as responses to relevant conversation without a second thought than The Wizard of Oz. But the phrases are not randomly tossed out, but are used when the circumstances are just right, when the situation calls for it. Heck, they are rarely exact quotes, but they are Oz originals nonetheless. It makes you wonder, after 82 years, if folks know why they're saying some of those things and where they come from. Immediately after the coworker had shared that little nugget, my mind was blown. Not only did I begin to hear those quips regularly, but found myself often being the deliverer of the phrase myself. I was a believer. A day did not go by without a reference to The Wizard of Oz. It is important to stress that the lines are never quite exact quotes. They are usually misquoted, and sometimes just a summation of the original line. But when they're used, it isn't about quoting a famous line exactly, but a line which has become the normal response. that just so happens to have originated with a famous movie and memorable dialogue. No matter how they're butchered, each are familiar and have become a part of our common lexicon. This is what makes them part of our pop culture consciousness and makes them more of a reference than an outright movie quote.
Sally, I went to Collection 82. Like you said, they got some swell designs. So I put their thing on my thing. Golly, Woody, I love things from Collection 82, like postcards and even change purses. Well, now will you wear my ring? Love to, Woody. If you really got something Collection 82, I'd love your thing on my thing. Bye.
Well, I think we'd all agree on the Wizard of Oz references, but I set out to search for even more common sayings and phrases we use in certain circumstances that can be traced back to Hollywood's golden age. Surely there weren't other phrases as perfectly suitable as responses to everyday occurrences. Indeed there were.
And don't call me Shirley.
For this exercise, we are not discussing famous movie lines that we quote just to quote them due to their comedic value, or when we've been cued by another person's dialogue as well. We are exploring those phrases with movie origins used in a natural way to complement a situation or occurrence. And we're not looking past 1960. Why? Because I had to draw on the line somewhere, and that's what I chose. Let's first do a spot check.
Have you ever used the phrase, I'm ready for my close-up?
Me personally, no. I've heard it, yes.
You have. Where do you think its origins come from?
Oh, I haven't the foggiest.
No? But you've heard people say it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what do they usually say? Like, what's
I'm
a
ready
good...
for my close-up, Mr. Bill.
Oh, good. Very good, very good. It actually comes from the movie Sunset Boulevard, and the actress says it at the end. You know the movie Wizard of Oz, of course. Yes. What are some common phrases from the Wizard of Oz that people still use today to reference a situation or something?
There's no place like home.
Very good.
I'm off to see the wizard.
Yeah.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
That's a great one. That's a good one.
And that's a horse of a different color.
Two very good ones. So when do people say something like, ignore the man behind the curtain? When do people say that?
I say it when I don't want people paying attention to me.
Very nice. That's good. I think a lot of people also you don't want them to know the secrets, right? So you can ignore. That's great. Thank you for your help. Have you ever used the phrase, I'm ready for my close-up?
I'm ready. Sometimes when I start my video for my channel, I would like to say, okay, I'm ready for my close-up.
Cool. Do you know where it's from?
I think it's from a famous director.
Okay.
Maybe something DeVille. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille.
Wonderful. That's pretty close. Okay, so cool. It's actually from the movie Sunset Boulevard, and the actress says, okay, Mr. DeVille, I'm ready for my close-up. That's cool, though. Okay, what about, have you ever heard someone use the phrase, let's see, it's a twister, it's a twister?
No, other than the movie Twister, no.
Have you used, or have you ever heard anyone use the phrase, play it again, Sam?
No,
no,
not at all.
Not at all. Okay, not played against Sam. What about, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn?
That one I know. That one is Gone with the Wind.
Very good.
That is the quality.
Have you ever used or heard the phrase being used, here's looking at you, or here's looking at you, kid?
Yes, Casablanca.
Casablanca, way to go. You know that. That's great. Do you know anything about that line or when it's at in the movie?
It's at the end, right before she gets on the plane.
Very good. That's the second time they say it. They do say it before in Paris, but that is the most famous there at the end. Have you ever heard the phrase, diamonds are a girl's best friend?
Yes, actually.
Where do you...
It's a good song.
Oh, it's a song. So where's it from?
Oh, Marilyn Monroe, right?
Yeah, she did sing it famously. Do you remember what movie it was in?
I just watched this last year. No, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head the title of the
No,
movie.
that's good. A lot of people think it's called Diamonds Are a Girl's Friend, but it's actually Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Yes, and Marilyn is with another brunette who's also really famous, and they were really cute.
Well, there you have it. There was a variety of knowledge and familiarity to some of the lines, and it is as I expected. Lines that have persevered over the decades and have evolved into more casual and common responses where their genesis can be either remembered, fleeting, or non-existent. As imperfect as the recitation, the line has its roots in its famous beginnings, nevertheless. Let's check out some more, knowing that the source material is often abbreviated or changed slightly whenever it is used in general conversation, but the original intent is the same. Congratulating or toasting someone's success.
He's looking at you, kid.
When you want to hear the same song. This is probably the most butchered and rewritten reference to a line ever. With the name Sam, you know it's Casablanca, but the rest has very little resemblance.
Play it.
Someone gives you a half-assed justification or excuse.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
When the day hasn't gone as planned, but you are hopeful.
Tomorrow,
is another day.
When you're proud of a great look you've put together, or you're ready for your picture being taken.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
When the ex arrives to the party, or someone volatile has had too much to drink, or perhaps when family members who can't get along are starting to go at it.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
This one's pretty self-explanatory. Or you're a Betty Davis impersonator.
What a dump.
When you observe an obvious mama's boy.
Do you go out with friends?
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Bringing a plant back to life from the edge of death, or fixing a car you thought was a lost cause. Those quiet moments when you hear the faint twinkle of a bell.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Looking on something you could have done, or waxing poetic on what could have been. Reminiscing on awards, accolades, or trophies, perhaps when you were younger and showed promise in certain fields or athletics.
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Huh?
When reacting to or longing over precious stones as a gift for someone.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Entries on the list that are songs are unique. In this case, a song line becomes the reference, and a very famous and often used one that many don't completely know where it's from. They still count though. How many times have you said that line with a female friend admiring some new gemstone jewelry? And what about this one? Those who reference it with or without any additional knowledge of the film itself or any other part of the song, but it is recognized as a song and usually referenced in song by the person outside in a cooling and welcome rainstorm who starts to twirl and can't open their mouth without a song coming right out.
Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain.
And finally, the rarest of them all, where there is no line to reference, but a visual that is so iconic that a reference is born from it. The one who makes the comment often makes up their own line as response to something they've seen. And surprisingly, most people know exactly what you're talking about, whether they have ever seen the film or not. This is a true pop culture icon. It isn't about a line at all, but a shared reference of something we all know, think we know, or at least have some passing familiarity from the 1931 film. It never seems to fail when someone looks up on a mega skyscraper for the first time and muses, "Wait, you can almost see a giant ape climbing on the side of that one." Or, "Is that a giant gorilla holding a lady up there?" It should be clear by now, these quotable catchphrases are not about quoting a movie merely for fun factor or setting up a memorable back and forth quote battle with a friend, but because the circumstance or visual dictates a reference, whether a perfect quotation or not. In the end, this goes to show, no matter the decades that pass, we still harken back to these Hollywood holdouts. Well, I hate to tell you, but you too have been cursed. Henceforth, not a day will go by where you don't get your daily dose of the Wizard of Oz. It's only a matter of time. I love doing the show. I'm a huge fan of classic cinema and the way it's depicted as glamorous life where people could escape war and poverty. Any opportunity to tie in Golden Age of Hollywood into pop culture is my kind of show. Now it's time to share with you my favorite movie line. Oh, it may not be as quoted and certainly not as popular to have evolved over time into a reference of its former self, but maybe between you and I, we can start something. I mean, there's countless moments where you meet people who are bored and uninspired or just floundering. And when you do, you just want to shout this out loud.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death now.
If you want to help me get that viral, try saying that the next time everyone's complaining about nothing to do. I'll thank you, and so will the source material. The movie name. But Wizard of Oz is not alone, and although it may have the most appropriate lines to recall when necessary, we have already seen a handful of other classics that work just as well. But modern movies are not exempt. Airplane and Steel Magnolias are prime for rapid-fire comic genius film quotes, but many films from the last 60 years have shown some staying power with lines that have evolved past simple quotes to quote, but common sayings for everyday situations, making their pop culture relevance even more than just simply the film itself. I'm sure you can account a time when one of these lines, even a variation of it, were the perfect response to a moment at hand. When the bottle of aloe vera or other ointment explodes. This too is another very bastardized line from the original. When you're cleaning out the closet and hanging up your clothes. When you just can't take it anymore and you want to shut someone up.
Snap out of it.
When all the guests you've been dreading finally arrive. When you've got an awesome idea for a great deal.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
When you bust into a room unexpectedly.
Here's Johnny!
Or when you're having a hard time getting to someone at the table.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
As Robert Osborne of TCM, Turner Classic Movies, once said, and I will misquote, there's no such thing as an old movie. Just a film you've yet to discover. Who knows? You might find yourself doing exactly what I've done over the years. You'll be discovering a movie you've only heard of and suddenly exclaim, oh my God! So that's where that's from. Until next time.